Hello, dear friends. This is really crazy because of the amount of news that are coming out. We know that the summer storm is coming strong in August as a result of the messages that are coming in, always in half-wets since no one can reveal their strategy. Opinion piece. August, month of changes. The banking crisis is coming. This is a transition, not a transaction. Trump's secret meetings in New Jersey. Gun stores are empty of ammunition. Trump will oppose his tax disclosures. We are on the last leg of a major global collapse. Real inflation will never be admitted to be higher than 10%. Evictions threaten millions of Americans. Extraordinary measures to avoid default. World's most important naval maneuvers begin. Pentagon uses artificial intelligence to make predictions. IMF allocates $650 billion to boost global liquidity. Earth's vital signs worsening, according to 14,000 scientists. A study reveals seismic and tsunami danger in Spain. Fireball detected flying over central Spain. Let's start. In quotes, prepare for the end of the world as we know it, says Mike Adams, who adds, in quotes, we are on the last leg of a major global collapse. Cities will become danger zones. Humanity is about to face a desperate situation as the Great Reset is implemented worldwide. This is the verbatim content of two short messages issued by Dan Scavino on Telegram. In quotes, the enormity of what is coming will connect the world. Pray, in case the lights go out, know that we are in control. Do not panic. We are prepared, and the assets are in place. The round letter said, we have been waiting for this operation to take down the dark side. The variant will be the excuse to keep people out of the way as this operation progresses. The EBS, Emergency Broadcast System, will be used to inform people around the world about what is happening. Supposed audio message from an EBS, in quotes. This is not a drill. The emergency alarm system has been activated. Phone lines are to be kept closed. Close quotes. False flag. Forensic audits are about to be released. Propaganda media will show censorship across the board, and there is a possibility of a false flag cyber attack from Russia. Today, Tuesday, which is already yesterday, is the deadline set for Dominion and Maricopa County to appear in court or before the Arizona Senate to testify. Arizona and Pennsylvania Democrats threaten to destroy voting machines after audit. Secret meetings. Trump holds secret cabinet meetings as Air Force prepare for his first time in history for combat strikes over U.S. soil. In quotes, we will not bend, we will not break, we will not yield, we will never ever give up. Our fight is far from over. In fact, we have just begun, he said. According to one top ally this week, Trump held meetings with cabinet members at his golf club in New Jersey. In quotes, I am not authorized to speak for the president, but I can tell you this. We would not have met tonight if we had not made plans for real progress led by the president, said one of the meeting participants, Mark Meadows. This message appeared on the Trump family Telegram channel. In quotes, "Use your discernment. I hope it's true. Soon, at any moment, a turn of events will trigger the unbelievable. Our entire government will be invalidated. Laugh if you will. There will be new elections and a new beginning." POTUS is now holding regular cabinet meetings. Big things are coming in the next 2 weeks. The storm is upon us. Ammunition shelves are empty, and gun sales continue to increase. This is dangerous. Trump to oppose disclosure of tax returns. The former president will challenge a recent Justice Department order that his tax returns be turned over to a House committee, one of his personal lawyers said Monday. U.S. News. Evictions threaten millions of Americans. More than 3.6 million renters fear they will be forced out of their homes in the coming months. Millions of insolvent citizens are in danger of being evicted from their homes following the end last Saturday of the federal anti-eviction moratorium first passed in September 2020. Eviction moratorium. President Biden is expected to announce a revised eviction moratorium on Tuesday, after an earlier government ban on evictions expired at midnight Saturday. 2 sources briefed on the matter said. Utah flash floods leave 6,000 homes without power. Days after flooding prompted Cedar's mayor to declare a state of emergency, the state has been hit by more flash floods and thunderstorms. Florida. Spirit cancels 227 flights, stranding hundreds at Orlando Airport. Spirit Airlines passengers are enduring long waits due to cancelled flights. Governor Ron DeSantis said, "No school closures, no restrictions and no mandates in the state of Florida." The Pentagon is testing the ability of artificial intelligence to predict events days in advance. The idea is to gather data collected by satellites, radar, or submarines and share it in a cloud for rapid analysis and processing by a machine learning and artificial intelligence system. Biden calls for Cuomo's resignation. President Biden said Tuesday that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo should resign in light of a state attorney general's report that revealed the Democratic governor had harassed 11 women. Zoom will pay $85 million to settle a lawsuit for violating users' privacy rights by sharing personal data with Facebook, Google, and LinkedIn. Military news. The largest naval exercises since the times of the Cold War begin this Tuesday. The largest scale exercises of the U.S. naval and amphibious forces since the times of the Cold War, when in 1981 NATO carried out the Ocean Venture. It runs from August 3rd to 16th and provides for a global integration of forces across 17 time zones. The exercises involve 6 Navy and Marine Corps commands, 5 fleets and 3 Marine Expeditionary Forces. 36 ships, including aircraft, carriers and submarines, are expected to participate. Pentagon closes after multiple shots fired near a subway station next to the building. Several people were injured and a police officer died after the shooting. The Department of Defense headquarters was closed Tuesday morning after multiple shots were fired near a platform at the facility's metro station. US offers refuge to more Afghans who helped Americans. Thousands more Afghans who could be targeted by Taliban violence because of their affiliations will have the opportunity to resettle as refugees in the US under a program announced by the State Department. Iran seizes oil tanker. Iranian-backed forces are believed to have seized an oil tanker in the Gulf off the coast of the United Arab Emirates, three maritime security sources said, after Britain's Maritime Trade Agency reported a possible hijacking. Asphalt Princess vessel seized in Gulf of Oman is heading for Iran according to Shipping Information Service Lloyd's list. Possible attack on Iran. An attack may be launched at any time against Iran in retaliation for the attack on the Israeli freighter Mercer Street that killed 2 crew members. Iranian media reports that Russia will use its radars to monitor airspace near the Iranian border to provide Tehran with operational data on a possible attack by Western allies. There has also been a fire at the Mashhad petrochemical complex, and it is the 45th day of the oil workers' strike at 112 facilities in 35 cities. NATO military exercises in Georgia. NATO military exercises with Georgian, Ukrainian, and Azerbaijan forces at a base near Tbilisi. These exercises are specifically aimed at perfecting the aerial transfer of heavy military equipment. The exercise is taking place at a time of high tension between the Atlantic Alliance and Russia. Moscow stresses the increase in recent years of such operations and the anti-Russian character of many of them. Brief perils. Australia and New Zealand will lose their Commonwealth status. Military closures in Australia. The military will provide food, water, and other essentials during the storm. When complete, they will help us rebuild and bring back suppressed technologies. England. 100-meter fossil fuel cooling towers demolished in the UK. Engineers are in a race against the weather and climate crisis to protect London underground from flooding. China. The number of people killed as a result of flooding in China has risen to 302 people. Red sky appears at another sandstorm in Dongguan, Gansu. Officials described the intense storm over parts of the country as one in a millennium event. India. Flooding continues. Trains cancelled by West Central Railway's Bhopal division due to train tracks being submerged in rain. Rajasthan. Swollen rivers cause flooding in parts of Karauli district. Several areas were inundated due to heavy rains. Civil defense teams are continuously conducting rescue operations in the area. Panchna dam gates have been opened. Burma. Myanmar's military leader Min Aung Hlaing says the military had to intervene to bring down a government that took power throughout election fraud. Soon, the military will ensure that the real democratic election will take place again according to the constitution. Thailand. The second high-ranking drug lord of a sprawling crime syndicate has been arrested, a Thai narcotics official said. Philippines. The Philippine government declares that non-stung people cannot buy food. Afghanistan. The Taliban have bombed the Shiland air base in Herat province. At least 3 Afghan commandos were killed and several others wounded. Civilians, the main victims of the Taliban offensive in Afghanistan. Fighting for Taliban control of the Afghan city of Lashkargah has left 40 civilians dead in the last 24 hours, while the army calls for the evacuation of this provincial capital, which joins other besieged by the rapid insurgent advance, which has caused the flight of almost 100,000 people. Brazil. Members of the Brazilian parliament burst into a hospital that claimed to have 5,000 infected and find it empty. Supporters of President Bolsonaro mobilized for a change in Brazil's voting system. Peru. Protests against the newly elected president of Peru, Pedro Castillo. Thousands of people attended rallies in the country's capital. They accuse Castillo of corruption, manipulating election results, and aiding terrorists. Venezuela. Chavist militia member is filmed looking for food in the garbage. A member of the Chavist militia who was videotaped searching for food in the garbage in the streets of Venezuela furiously lashed out against the Maduro regime and demanded that the dictator be removed from power. Emergency measures. Congress officially went into recess without addressing the expiration of the debt ceiling suspension. As of August 1st, the Treasury has been forced to take extraordinary measures to continue funding federal spending despite the fact that borrowing revenues have disappeared. The US deploys extraordinary measures before the expiration of the debt ceiling suspension in order to avoid a so-called default or suspension of payments and prevent the US from defaulting on its obligations. The emergency measures will allow the Treasury Department to pay government bills without new debt for a few months. The Treasury Department will begin taking emergency cash conservation measures on Monday to prevent the government from defaulting on its debt days before the 2-year suspension of the debt ceiling expires. The limit prevents the Treasury from issuing new bonds to finance the government's activities once a certain level of debt is reached. That level reached $22 billion in August 2019 and was suspended by then President Trump for 2 years. This Saturday, that suspension expired. The so-called extraordinary measures, which include, for example, halting contributions to certain government pension funds, will allow the Treasury to pay government bills without new debt for 2 or 3 months. After that, Congress must raise or suspend the borrowing limit or risk a default. If real inflation is admitted to be over 10%, then it takes 10 years to inflate half your wealth. The real inflation of all the money created after 2008 has just come home to roost, and that doesn't even count all the offshore petrodollars. As other countries use other currencies, those dollars will also go home. Inflation is likely to skyrocket in the next few years. Allocation. IMF boosts reserves. The IMF's Board of Governors on Monday gave the green light to increase its cash reserve capacity by $650 billion, the latest step toward an initiative to help the most vulnerable countries. The International Monetary Fund on Monday approved a new allocation of special drawing rights, totaling $650 billion to member countries. The money will be redistributed to the nations that need it most to alleviate the effects of the crisis, according to their quota share in the organization. The general allocation will come into effect on August 23, 2021. In the case of Argentina, which has a 0.67% share, it will receive $4.4 billion, which will be used to pay interest on its debt with the same organization. The Spanish Treasury expects to raise up to 5.75 billion euros in Thursday's debt auction. The Treasury expects to raise between 4.25 and 5.75 billion euros in the auction of bonds and debentures to be held next Thursday, the 1st in August. The Treasury intends to place between 4,000 and 5,000 million throughout the issuance of 3- and 5-year bonds and 10-year debentures. In addition, it wants to raise between 250 and 750 million throughout an issue of inflation-linked bonds with a residual maturity of 9 years and 4 months. Europe. ECB hikes crisis debt purchases by 9.2% in July. The European Central Bank has raised the pace of emergency crisis debt purchases in July to 87.557 billion euros, 9.2% more than in June. Biganella, a village in the heart of the Italian Alps, has installed a mirror high up in the mountains so as to not be left without sunlight for more than 83 days. This village in the Italian Alps has no sunlight for most of the year, especially in winter. Inferno at the gates of Athens. 3 suburbs of the Greek capital have been evacuated due to fire that has devoured houses, vehicles, and commercial premises. The fire has forced to cut the highway and railway lines to the north of the country. It also threatening the power supply of dozens of towns as they deal with 81 wildfires during Greece's worst heat wave in more than 30 years. Spain. Spain sends 3 planes to fight fires in Turkey. Spain has sent 2 seaplanes and a transport plane to Turkey to take part in efforts to extinguish the more than 100 fires raging along the country's southern coast. The planes took off this Tuesday from Malaga airport with a contingent of 27 military personnel, 22 crew members, and 5 members of the military emergency unit. A fireball is detected flying over the center of Spain at 210,000 kilometers per hour. The detectors of the SMART project of the Institute of Astrophysics of Andalusia from the astronomical observatories of Seville, La Sagra Granada, and La Ita Toledo have recorded the passage of a fireball flying over the center of the peninsula. It flew over the communities of Castilla y León, Madrid, and Castilla-La Mancha at 23:18 on July 31st. 30 small earthquakes detected in the interior of Las Cañadas del Teide, Tenerife. The National Geographic Institute has detected a total of 30 small earthquakes in the interior of Las Cañadas del Teide. The magnitude of the earthquakes are between 0.6 and 1.9 at a depth between 8 and 23 kilometers. In Spain, 15 dogs without microchips are abandoned every hour. 3 out of every 4 dogs abandoned in Spain have no identification. In Spain, 15 dogs without microchips are abandoned every hour. Every year, 120,000 dogs are abandoned without microchip identification out of total of 162,000 abandoned dogs. This is an absolute cruelty. Vital signs. 14,000 scientists warned that the Earth's vital signs are worsening at a worrying rate. Researchers urge the implementation of policies aimed at the structural transformation of the economy to cope with the increase in climate catastrophes. About 2,800 scientists have joined in the last 2 years a declaration of climate emergency initially signed by more than 11,000 specialists from 153 countries, who warn of the rapid deterioration of the vital signs of our planet. Study reveals seismic and tsunami danger in Spain. The Institute of Marine Sciences, a center belonging to the Spanish National Research Council, considers that there is seismic and tsunami danger in Spain and therefore advises to address the matter urgently. New sodium-ion battery to ease lithium shortage. The development of a new sodium-ion battery by Chinese battery giant ZATL in the next few years is expected to ease pressure on lithium supplies, which are forecast to be in short supply from 2022 onwards. SpaceX releases first images of a Starship Super Heavy, its largest and most powerful rocket. Elon Musk's company completed installation of the rocket's 29 Raptor engines. SpaceX released Monday the first images of its Starship reusable spacecraft and the progress of the assembly of its Super Heavy propulsion system, which will soon start in a first orbital test flight. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.